Hello, this is Samse again from GamingOnLinux.com, and today I'm going to talk to you about Interstellaria. It's an indie retro adventure RPG strategy game in which you need to command a fleet or a ship on a mission to figure out who is behind these mysterious abductions that have happened on various worlds. And you fly around the space from planet to planet, trying to find clues as to who might be behind these mysterious abductions and what has happened to all the abducted people. Like I said, it's a RPG strategy game in which you need to manage your fleet. You have your crew that you need to manage. The crew will gain level up. You can buy new gear, new ships, and all kinds of things like that. And quite often you will encounter space combat, which in this game is quite interesting. It's sort of like FTL in that you need to command your crew at the same time as you plan your maneuvers in space. So you need to do like a lot of stuff at the same time, especially when you get hit with some weaponry and there is a hull leak or something like that you need to fix. And what quite often happens is that you need to move your focus from the battlefield to your crew and need to move your guys around, but at the same time avoid getting shot again, because that can quite easily happen. So the space combat is quite interesting. There's also, you need to take care of your crew, so when you equip all of your ships, you need to make sure that the crew has access to food, rest, and entertainment. So the game explains that the crew will function better if all of its needs are fulfilled. So that's why at some point I decided that I'm going to get these guys a jukebox so that they can listen to some music when they are not like in combat or something like that. And also, another big part of the game is landing on various kinds of planets. So you need to explore and land on these planets, find clues on them about the abductors, and also you meet various races, and you often need to complete some kind of quests for these races so that they will give you more information so you can continue on your main quest. As far as I know, these are not like side quests, they are like mandatory. You need to complete these quests, and completing them will get you more information so you can go to the next planet and find more information there, and then the cycle continues. This is actually a pretty bad thing. The game could be, like, if you look at it, it could be like very non-linear, in that it's the whole galaxy, well, it's open to you. You can go basically anywhere you want. But as far as I know, there is no reason to go anywhere apart from the place you're supposed to go next. A lot of the places where you can go, they are either very empty, or all the interesting stuff is actually locked before you find a certain object or certain piece of information, and then you can access those interesting areas. You can land on certain planets for the purposes of harvesting resources. If you want to do that, you can just go out there, and the harvesting resources is actually automated, so that you don't actually need to micromanage everything. So you can just send your crew out there to gather resources. Of course, you probably need to take care of the wildlife before you do that, otherwise your guys are going to be rather vulnerable. But you can just let them do that without you having to do anything, and it's a good way to get some money for new equipment and stuff like that. But there is no reason to go there. There aren't any side quests as far as I know. You only land on planets to complete the quests that you are supposed to complete, and maybe buy some equipment, resources, and ships if you want to do that. Various planets have ships that are specific to that race, so if you want a fleet of all kinds of ships, you might want to go to the planet further out and get their ships. Personally, I have never seen the need to use more than one ship. As a matter of fact, I have never really seen the need to upgrade from the first ship you get. The first ship you get is a corvette, and the only like drawback of that thing is that it's a bit more vulnerable. It doesn't have any shields, and it doesn't have a whole lot of energy, so you cannot power up as many stations as you could on a bigger ship. So, but the enemies aren't actually all that scary, and seriously, I probably could have played. I've played the game for 8 hours now, and I probably could have survived with the first Corvette, honestly. I did upgrade to a frigate after a while, so that I could get something a little bit more powerful, but I haven't even upgraded the weapon really. I have gained some weapons from space combat. You get some like scrap, and you can salvage some equipment and stuff from wreckages, but I'm still using the default Gatling guns, and those are supposed to be relatively like weak, but as far as I'm concerned, they are still the best thing that I can use, because they have good like damage output. So that's kind of weird. And the planetside stuff in general is actually quite boring and even tedious at times. It's mostly just what you do on the planets is mostly just fetch quests, and sometimes you need to harvest resources if you want to get some money, and sometimes it's go talk to this person in that area and then go back here, report to me. And all the quests that I have done so far have been really boring, and I don't really even want to go on planets anymore. I just like space combat is it's the best thing this game has to offer. The combat on the ground is not. You click on the enemy you want to attack, and then your guys will attack it until the enemy is dead or until your guys are dead. Unless you want to run, of course, which is also an option. And the only thing that will really affect the results is the equipment you give to your crew, so you can give them like weaponry, like pistols, spears, knives, and armor. But I haven't found that too interesting. And one of the worst things is that the game has quite a few technical problems, and sometimes the pathfinding of the crew members is really bad, and sometimes they get during combat they get knocked back, and that causes all kinds of problems. In general, I don't really want to do any of the planet side stuff. It's boring. I just found it very boring. The game advertises the planet side stuff as one of the big and awesome features of the game, but I honestly don't see it. There isn't really any exploration that's happening. At least I don't get a sense of discovery when I do all that stuff. All the quests are just about finding stuff and killing some things, and that's about it. And it's mostly just boring. Of course, the scenery is a little bit different on each planet, but that's a very minor thing. And like I mentioned, the difficulty is kind of weird. After 8 hours, you'd think that there would be quite a few like enemies that are kind of scary, but so far I'm at the point where I first discovered an enemy that I cannot simply go run at and kill, and I've been playing for 8 hours, and that was on the ground where my people are kind of weak. So yeah, in space I can basically take on anything, because as long as you can maneuver effectively enough, you are not really in any danger. But one good thing to note is that the game is quite long. After 8 hours, I haven't even reached the middle point. At least that's how I feel. So the game is actually pretty long, and the game has some awesome music. I'm serious, the music is really good. It's like chiptune music, so it might not appeal to everyone, but I find the soundtrack pretty interesting. But sadly, the game is kind of plagued by various kinds of technical problems, and it's not, in my opinion, all that great. Like the fleet management and space combat, that's where the game kind of shines, because it's kind of like FTL, and FTL was awesome. But what happens on the planets, it's really nothing special. I didn't feel like I was having fun. At times I just had to, like, I cleared out the enemies. That was a tedious process in itself, and then I just set the game to auto-harvest all the resources, and that took like 5 to 10 minutes, and I was basically sitting there doing nothing. The auto harvest is very good, because I would never ever want to do that manually, but it's still kinda, it's waiting for nothing basically. And the quests that you are given are just plain uninteresting. So yeah, the game has certain problems. Like I mentioned, technical issues like bugs and crashes have been quite... they are not like all that common. The game has crashed once for me, and I have seen maybe like 5 bugs. But for example, Liam played the game and he managed to break the game in the tutorial section. He did something he wasn't supposed to do, and that kind of broke the whole game for him. And the forums are full of various kinds of bug reports and stuff like that, so the game is not in the best state, and it's sad that this is kind of the reality these days. But yeah, my personal opinion is maybe get it. I mean, I personally don't find it all that awesome. Most of the time that I have spent on the game has been waiting or just some boring stuff. There have been some nice moments, and there are some random events that are actually quite interesting, but I just don't think it's all that amazing. So I'm not really going to recommend it. It might appeal to some people, but it didn't really appeal to me all that much. I mean, it's not like a super bad game, but I just feel like there needs to be a little bit more to all the planet-side stuff, because you are going like to planets quite often, and all the stuff that you do there is really, really boring. It's tedious. It's annoying. So I don't really think Interstellaria is all that great, but it's a thing, and I enjoy it more than I do Starbound, so that's a thing. But they are totally different games, so that's also a thing. But that's basically my thoughts on Interstellaria. I don't like it all that much, but I'm probably going to play it through because I want to see how the story plays out. But yeah, I don't think it's the planet side stuff that really like makes the game very tedious and annoying, in my opinion. If it was more of the space stuff, or the planet side stuff was very much redesigned, then it would be a better game, in my opinion. But so that has been Interstellaria, and we will see in future videos.